Hello, and welcome to the Long Islander podcast. Today is Friday, March 7th, 2025. I'm your host, Samuel Ashkenazy. Co hosting with me today is Gina Florentino-James and owner Jim Kelly. Before we begin, subscribe to the Long Islander newspaper for just $45 a year. We deliver right to your door, and we cover everything from local business, politics, sports, special interest stories, and entertainment, including weekly movie reviews. Follow the Long Islander newspaper on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at Long Islander News. How are we all doing today?
Doing well.
So let's just dive right into the news because I know we've got a lot to cover today. Jim, why don't you start us off with what's going on in the town?
Well, a lot of interesting things are going on. It seems like both sides are lining up for who's going to run the town in the years to come. Supervisor and two of the council positions are up in November. And the current supervisor, Ed Smith, is being challenged by another Republican, um, Brooke Lupinacci, who's a sitting council person. She won that seat last year, so she's in the starting of the second year of a 4-year term. Um, she and Ed have, the supervisor Smith, have gone back and forth on the Melville development. If any of you have been following this in the paper, uh, the Melville development is taking a whole area and creating an overlay district for them to basically create a town center in Melville, a walking center with retail stores and apartments over it, and a park, and make it into another little village area. Uh, According to what the town has been saying, and what the zoning board has been looking at, is that we have been changing. The complexion of people in buildings has been changing, and they have higher vacancy rates. And when you have such high vacancy rates, the problem becomes that you can't maintain the building. You can't maintain the building, you can't pay your taxes on the building, and it becomes more and more and more of a problem. So rather than waiting until we have ghost office buildings in the area, they felt it's a better idea now to take a strategic plan, look at it, where you want to go over the next 10 years, and create a plan to make it a walking business area that people could live in, shop in, dine in, and make it a village. So there's people who are very for that and people who are very against it. Um, Councilperson Lupinacci is basically saying that she's it's problematic because there's not enough detail for her, and there should be these studies done. But Supervisor Smith is saying those studies shouldn't be paid for by the town. When a developer is coming in and giving us a proposal, that's when they should be doing these studies on their dime to see if it even makes sense. So they're coming at it from two different standpoints. So Councilperson Lupinacci also has made claims that there's something nefarious going on, and she said she was going to refer it to the district attorney's office. So not quite sure what that is because we cannot get the details on it. So it's an interesting environment. Another familiar name has now popped up, former Councilman Gene Cook. And Gene, it was interesting. Former Councilman Cook actually was one who pushed through term limits, and he served his terms in office, and now he's coming back and running again, even though he was one of the people who pushed term limits. So I haven't gotten a chance to talk to the former councilman yet, but either I or Peter Slogat, our managing editor, will get a chance to talk to Gene and find out what's the logic behind here. But we have three Republicans running against three Republicans.
And with Lubinachi, I mean, what are the type of details that she's looking for to, let this project go forward?
You know, she is short on details on what the details are.
Hmm.
So it's kind of right now more, as they say, more research is needed. We need to understand from both of them and get their statements clarified so that we can present that back to our readership. Um, we want to leave very little room as this primary comes up as to where they all stand. and what that standing actually means to the community and to the town and whole as a whole. Now we also have the Democrats have their slate already picked, and to the best of my knowledge, no one is primarying them. So they could walk out of this a lot more solid
Mm.
because they don't have an internal squabble. Connor Cooper Maca is running on the Democratic line for supervisor, and um, he ran previously against State Assemblyman uh, Keith Brown unsuccessfully, and so he's trying his hand again at supervisor. So um, much more effort needs to be done on our part to get that story out and make sure people understand what are they running for. In a hyper local election, in your town supervisor, a lot of people don't realize that the town is quite large. If we were a city, we would be like the fourth largest city in the state of New York.
Mm.
We have over 200,000 people in this town. So it's not a minor job, um, but you're limited. You're only focusing on, what you can do in the town because the layers of government, the town is the most local, then you go to your state, I'm sorry, county, then state, then federal. So the what you can do and not do is much more hyper local for the town, but it actually has a lot to do with the taxes that you pay. So it becomes very critical to watch what they're doing, what they're approving, where the zoning is changing and how things are going. So that's going to be very interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks to see how the Republican primary shapes out.
And would you say it's, um, I mean, precedented that the Republicans have three different nominees going into this primary?
No, this happened actually once before. To my memory, I'm sure it happened many more times before that, but a number of years ago, probably around 15, and don't quote me on that number. One of the council people who was Republican was running, and the Republican at that time, um, headed up by Tony Teep, um, denied him Mark Capodanno, the place on the ticket, and he was a sitting city councilman and a town councilman, and so they basically put together a slate to run against all of the other Republicans and to get Capodanno back on the ticket. And the other people running, basically, I knew one of them, they're a good friend, and they said, "Please don't vote for me. I don't want to. I don't want to run." But we promised that we would primary everyone if they didn't consider Mark. We didn't want Mark to be the only person on the primary, so that's why we put up a full slate. So Mark did win, but he lost the general election,
Hmm.
which is a shame because he was a strong candidate. And the inside scuttlebutt back then was the party was not happy with him because he sided with the Democrats too many times, and that he was the only Republican on the town board at the time.
Oh, God forbid some bipartisanship.
Yeah, and he basically said, "Why would I vote against something I agree with?" He goes, "It doesn't make sense." And the response supposedly was, "It's to always be in opposition." And it's sort of like that doesn't make sense, especially in a town to always be in opposition. No, you do what makes sense for the community, and bipartisan is the only, in my estimation, is the only thing to do. Um, Parties don't have to have that kind of strength over the person. And it's a shame that Mark Capodanno did not win because he's really he was a excellent council person, and we lost on that. So the next thing I would like to bring up is this Sunday for anyone who has not been in Huntington for over a year. Every year, the Sunday, typically the Sunday before St. Patrick's Day, unless it's immediately if St. Patrick's Day is on a Monday, then it's 2 Sundays ahead. But
So
that
this Sunday,
this
March 9th.
Sunday, March 9th, will be the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is one of the oldest and largest on Long Island. And it starts up at the train station and comes down, um, or may start at the old Big H shopping center, whatever it's called today. Um, but it comes down New York Avenue, turns on to Main Street. And it's a great time. It is one of the best parades. And it is our St. Patrick's Day parade. And for anybody who hasn't been to one, you got to go. It's tremendous fun. And then afterwards, the crowd disperses in the village, and it's one massive pub crawl.
I
And
was
it's
gonna
just
say,
fun.
there's a lot of good bars on Main Street in Huntington.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and it really is just the place I'm thinking of trying to get into, and I have to call Andrew Crabtree. Shout out to Crabtree's on at the corner of Main and New York Avenue. They're on the second floor, and they have like the best view of the parade because you're warm, you're inside, have a cocktail in your hand, and you can watch the parade go by. I mean, that what is better than Crabtree's? But there is just a tremendous amount of fun being on the street. This year, the Grand Marshal is State Assemblyman Keith Brown, and Keith actually follows in the footsteps of his dad, who was also the Grand Marshal. So it's a family tradition for the Browns, and the parade steps off at 2 o'clock, which means it doesn't get really into the village until about 2:30. So if you're going to go though, I would say go early because it gets crowded.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to find a spot on the street to look at it.
Exactly. It's very hard to find a parking spot. But if you go early, what we used to do was leave one car down uh, close to the parade route, and then we would drive in and take a long walk too. But then we had the car down there, so we could drive back and pick up the other car. So it was only one long one long walk instead of two. But it's always a great amount of fun.
A lot of Huntington residents might have noticed some difficulty parking this week
Yes.
in Huntington Village. That's actually because we had something pretty exciting going on in the town right now. Steven Spielberg was actually shooting a movie here. He closed down right in front of the Paramount, and that production was there pretty much the entire day. It's kind of exciting, seeing that type of production coming here. There's not too much available on it yet. We know that it's an Amblin Entertainment production. We know that it's Steven Spielberg directing it with, I believe, David Koepp writing it. I actually recently just spoke about David Koepp here because I was reviewing Presence, which is currently, I think, still in theaters. He's the ninth most successful screenwriter in Hollywood.
Wow.
The guy has many, many hits under his belt. And he's very busy this year. He just did Presents. He has Black Bag coming out and this new Spielberg movie on the way. So, I mean, three titles kind of back to back, which is very surprising. Um, but I do think it's very exciting to see that type of activity here. I know Joe Schramm over at the Huntington Film and TV Council has been working very hard to try and get productions into the town. So, I mean, as this story kind of develops and we learn more about this movie, I'll be sure to share some more about it. I do think that they are done filming at this point. I saw that their next shooting location is going to be in New Jersey. So they've moved out of Long Island. But if you saw some stars walking around, you probably did, as Joe likes to say. So that was something exciting this week.
It's interesting because we did not get the notice from the town until after our publication date, and the only thing that I wish they did was send it out earlier because it surprised a lot of people, and it cuts two ways. One is somebody coming in who didn't know what was going on just gets really annoyed.
Yeah.
And the other is the people who know what's going on just simply don't come in. So It's problematic for the store owners. I think overall it's better for the community than not. But with a little bit more communication would be better from the town. We got the notice on a Thursday, late Thursday.
Yes.
It's sort of like there's nothing I can do. So that was a little bit it was selfishly annoying that we couldn't get it into the paper. All they had to do was get it to us on a Wednesday, and we could have blasted it out. I was talking to the manager at Kashi, Benny.
Yes.
Anybody knows? Benny is one of my favorite people, and Kashi is one of my favorite restaurants. And
Great sushi spot.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And so I asked him how was it here? Because actually, Elm Street, like Spielberg's not going to shoot on Elm Street. He'll shoot on New York Avenue or Main Street, but Elm Street's kind of, quiet. But he said they had like one big truck. Parking was not a problem. And he said, they really didn't have a dip in business. So, yeah, I think just the communications could have been better. And the way the announcement did come out, it sounded like they massive closing, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't that massive. It was surgical, and it was well done. Well done. But Benny said that they didn't really, there was no decline in business, and he said they just had one really large truck out there with all that. He said it came late and left. It was gone next day. There was no evidence of it even being there. He said it was pretty amazing to see. So.
Well, I imagine if you're a crew person on a Spielberg film, you guys are probably pretty efficient. You guys are going to be in and out and make the place look better than when you found it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very, very, I think, good for the town, and I think we're, putting some muscle behind it. And I think that Joe Schramm is doing an excellent job. Also, you should follow what Joe does because he's very active in Pride Fest in Northport, and they're in that planning phase now, and they're looking for volunteers. But he's very active in the community, and the community means a lot to him. And so I think that the town should also support the efforts that they're doing there.
I also want to tack on to that. Joe Schramm is also the producer of the Made in Huntington Film and TV Festival, which just announced, I actually believe last night, they picked their 36 or 37 36 or 37 picks for the Huntington Film and TV Festival. So just over 30 directors and filmmakers were, chosen to be shown at the Huntington Cinema Arts Center. And that's going to be later in April.
Cool.
I'm going to have a little bit more coverage on that as we draw closer to the event. But that's a really exciting thing for us. It's a great way to encourage local filmmakers and artists to kind of get out there and get some exposure in the industry. I know that, I know the Made in Huntington Film and TV Festival is going to have a panel of really esteemed judges that should be, really knowledgeable and give some great insight to these filmmakers as to what their futures could look like and great possibilities for them to distribute and get their work out there. So I think that is really exciting. I think just over 100 people had submit to the festival, and only these 36 or 37
Wow.
Titles were chosen. So, it looks like it's going to be a very nicely curated festival. I'm looking forward to see what the local filmmakers are bringing and what type of stories they're trying to tell. And I think it could be a great, very exciting thing for our little community here.
Yeah, I totally agree. A group tried to do a film festival here probably about 10, 13 years ago. And it was just hard for them to get the backing. But I think Joe's doing a phenomenal job in circling the wagons and getting the community behind it. So it's a great thing for the town of Huntington. It really is. It keeps us on the map. But my own personal feeling, very editorial, is that art is what divides us from animals.
Absolutely.
It's the difference. It's not that I think that it's it's not something that can be canceled and should never be canceled. It's the expression of people's souls. It's the expression of the society at the time, and it becomes important that that never gets censored and never gets, tossed aside. And that is what makes us different. And where you're looking at when you're looking on an international stage where countries do, in totalitarian states in China, where they control what is in the arts, you get a different view and more of a messaging. And I think that that's something that Americans need to support and basically get behind and make sure that that never changes. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
I couldn't agree more with you, Jim. Gina, we haven't heard from you much yet. What do you got for us this week?
Well, I've been working on a program, an exercise program called Strength for Life. It's for people who are either undergoing cancer treatments or are people who have survived cancer. They like to use that term, people who have survived cancer, rather than cancer survivors, because it makes the onus on the person rather than the um, illness. So I've been talking to a lot of people who've been part of this program, and one man is undergoing treatments right now, and he goes and he says it helps his muscles because of the foods that he can't eat anymore. Um, there's a woman who says this is the only place she can talk emotionally about her experiences with other people. It's a very gentle exercise. The instructor is Debbie Hughes. She has other instructors, but she's the main person who co-founded the program. And they use gentle stretching, bands, resistant bands, physio balls, and I'm part of that program, and it does help quite a bit. There's also another woman named Martine Resta who does a program called Eccentrics, which is a mixture of yoga, Tai Chi, and ballet, which is, again, very gentle stretching. And you just, when you come out of there, you feel good because you've talked to other people who've undergone the same circumstances, and you just feel so good. So it's a program to help people move along emotionally and physically.
That's such a beautiful program, and I'm curious. You are a person who has survived cancer yourself. When you are a person who has survived cancer yourself, I'm curious. I mean, when you were experiencing that, was did you feel a sense of not being able to talk to people, or have the sense of, um, I guess, not being able to relate to people as you're dealing with the illness? And does this Strength for Life program give you that opportunity to kind of feel less alone in that struggle?
Well, I've had cancer twice, in 2002 and then 2019, and I just learned about the program not too long ago. So it's even for people who are no longer um, directly involved with it. It can be any person who's had cancer. And so I just started it a few weeks ago and have found it to be a wonderful thing. It's in the middle of the afternoon, which is great for people who are retired, and it's just really wonderful.
If I could add, keep an eye on the paper for next week because Gina's going to be doing an article. I think it'll be in next week or the week
Yes,
after.
hopefully.
Hopefully next week, with more details because a lot of people don't know that this exists and it's there to help. So hopefully we can get this in next week with a lot more details for people to follow up on.
And I'd like to point out that it's no cost to any of the survivors, or I should say people who have survived cancer. Absolutely no cost. And they get the money through fundraisers, and they're going to have a major fundraiser at the Stonebridge in Smithtown on March 27th from 6 to 10. And they raise all their money through different donations and fundraisers. And if you're interested, you would go to strengthforlifeny.org for
Okay,
more information.
repeat that again.
strengthforlifeny.org.
Great. If I can also bring up two interesting things in the paper this week.
Yeah, of course.
One is they're doing a clothing drive. We have four of the majority, the Republican majority of the Suffolk County legislature. Four of the women got together and created for Women's History Month a clothing drive for women, and it can be everything from casual to business attire to help people with their clothing, and it's a great effort. And locally in Huntington, Stephanie Bontempi, our local, I think it's the 18th district, legislative district, in her office on Wall Street, is doing a collection point. And so their goal is to get as many clothes in that are gently worn. Um, Please don't bring rags. Things that are nice for people to use.
No coffee stains.
No coffee stains. And basically, it's to help people out, especially when if they're reentering the workforce. Clothes that they could wear on an interview, that would be very, very helpful. And it's a great effort, and it's going on now, and that's a good one. And before we get off of the arts, which I already got off the arts, but bringing it back in, I just want to give a shout out to one of our advertisers, which is the Argyle Theater down in Babylon. A lot of people in Huntington don't venture south of the LIE, which is a shame because the Babylon Theater, the Argyle in Babylon, is beautiful theater.
And they're doing great work over there, too.
Yeah.
It's very fun. They're currently doing Jersey Boys there. I had a blast with that show. It was very, very well done. Highly recommend people go see it.
I will be going to see it next week. So I will also be able to fill you in on what I see. But they have 2 other shows coming up, both of which I want to see. Fiddler on the Roof has to be one of my favorite productions of all time. I love
Yes.
that show. Love the music, and it's and Music Man following. Music Man's a good show. They have a lot of really good songs in it, and
I haven't seen Music Man.
Oh, you have to.
I'm
You-
excited for that one.
you definitely have to, Sam, because I saw it on Broadway with Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster.
Wow. Good cast.
Yeah, and they were really good. And unfortunately, it was right at the end of COVID, so you had to wear masks as you were sitting in your seat. And it was uncomfortable, but the performance was so good you didn't mind wearing the mask. As long as they didn't wear the mask on stage, I'm okay. But that's a shout out to Argyle. And the last thing I just wanted to hit on was that the Half Hollow Hills East girls basketball team was in the playoffs, and unfortunately they lost in the round of playoff games. But they had an incredible season. I encourage people to go onto the paper this week. Gary Haber wrote a really good article covering on what these girls accomplished, and it is pretty phenomenal. The program, the coaching staff, and the players themselves, they just did really well. So congratulations, girls on a great season.
Oh, well, we love to hear it. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Are you a local business? Let's try that again. Are you a business local to Long Island and looking for a promotional spot right here on our podcast? Email info@long-islandernews.com to secure your spot now. Okay, and we are back. So, if y'all don't mind, I did want to quickly recap the Oscars last week because
Yes.
it was a pretty eventful night. Like I was saying in the podcast last week with Gina, I mean, it's got to be one of the most competitive years I could think of in recent memory. I mean, there were a lot of categories that were toss-ups, I mean, real toss-ups. Specifically in the lead actors categories for both lead actress and actor. It was very hard to determine which one of those was going to win. My pick for Best Actress, Mikey Madison, did manage to pull through, which I was very excited about. No shade to the substance at all. I loved that movie, but I thought Mikey Madison as Honora was a fantastic performance. I'm really glad that she pulled through. Adrian Brody won for Best Actor. He's still giving his Oscars speech as we record this. Gina, one of the movies that we were really excited about, Flow, the Latvian silent animation film. actually won Best Animated Feature. I was so excited for them. Those filmmakers were adorable. They gave really, really nice speeches. And that movie deserved all the praise that it got. So I was very happy for that. The Brutalist won Best Score. I disagree. I do think Volker Bertelmann should have won for Conclave. When we're talking Best Supporting Actor, it was no surprise Kieran Culkin won. He was pretty much the shoe-in. Nobody expected really anything different in that category. Um, so he pretty much swept the entire award season. So good for him. I haven't seen him in much, and this was his year. I mean, he's only a couple months off of the win for Succession.
Mm.
Playing Roman. So I mean, he's an actor on a very upward trajectory right now. You couldn't really ask for a better run of performances. The other thing I'll say is if you haven't seen it yet, his Oscar speech was really funny. Um, he cracks this joke about how right after he won the Emmy, he made his wife promise that she would have a third kid with him. And she said that when you win the Oscar, I'll give you a fourth kid. And he didn't mention it until right as he won the Oscar. He walked up on stage and said, "Honey, let's get cracking." So I really loved that moment. I thought that was great. Um, to my absolute dismay, Amelia Perez did win Best Supporting Actress for Zoe Saldana. I do think that her performance in that movie was good. But there were a lot of other movies that I thought were way more deserving. I was kind of pulling for Ariana Grande, who I'm typically not a fan of, but I thought she was incredible in Wicked. Um, so I mean, overall, though, I thought it was a really exciting Oscars. Also, I do want to give a shout out. I do think Conan was really fun. I do miss him on television as much as he used to be. So seeing him do the Oscar ceremony was very fun. I loved his bit crawling out of Demi Moore during the Substance
Yeah, yeah.
reference. I thought that was fun. Um, Honora pretty much swept the night. Sean Baker broke an Oscar record, taking home 4 Oscars personally. That's never been done before. He won for Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Editing, and Best Picture.
Wow.
So, I mean, that guy had a great night. You'll definitely be seeing more of him in the future. This is the first time that he's ever been recognized at this level, though. He's had a couple previous films that I thought were great, Tangerine and The Florida Project being 2 of them that I highly recommend. Um, but this was the first time that he's ever really hit mainstream success. Also, can't help but give a shout out to Neon, the production company. This is their second Best Picture win, and they've only been around for less than 10 years.
Wow.
So I mean, that production company is really, they're doing something right. And I think part of that is giving opportunity to younger, newer talent. Not guarding the reins so much as the big studios do. They've just been having a lot of success. Um, they previously won for Parasite, Bong Joon-ho's film, which is a great segue into what the only review I have for you this week. But it's it's a great time for I think the independent studios. They're really putting in the work. They are trying to get the audience back, and I think they're doing a great job. I really do. Um, like I just said, Neon had previously won for the movie Parasite, which was directed by Bong Joon-ho. This guy is a visionary director. I mean, the guy is really something. Not only has he done Parasite, but he also famously did The Host back in 2006, Mother. He did Snowpiercer not that long ago, back in 2012. That was another fantastic film. If you haven't seen any of these, Gina, I see a nod, and I highly recommend checking them out. They're very original films. They're very visually striking. Um, it's something that you're not getting completely in American cinema. So I
Hmm.
definitely recommend checking a lot of his stuff out because it's brilliant. And his newest film, Mickey 17, is no exception to that rule. He is just as brilliant as ever here. His direction is spot on. Robert Pattinson plays Mickey Barnes. He is an expendable. An expendable is a job that will be in the future. Hopefully not, but in this world it is. And as an expendable, he's supposed to do jobs that are going to kill him. And then he will just be reprinted and sent right back out into the field to go complete the job. And they will do this as many times as needed. This is based on the book Mickey 7. Bong Joon-ho said in an interview that he loved the book, but he wanted to kill Mickey 10 more times. So that's how we got to Mickey 17. Uh, I really couldn't recommend this movie more. I'll have my full thoughts on it in the paper and, of course, on my YouTube channel and Patreon page. Please consider joining my Patreon page, patreon.com/scareworks, to see my full movie reviews and also some, editorials and opinion pieces that you won't be able to see in the paper. Um, I really loved Mickey 17, though. I think it's going to be, or at least I hope it's a really big box office hit this weekend. Where we really need some original content right now. Also, this is a Warner Brothers film, and Warner Brothers has pretty much sat out the first 2 months of the year. They haven't really had any major release. So this is their first major release of the year. Um, I can't, the whole cast is fantastic, but I really can't give Pattinson enough praise. Um, this is a guy who has been so maligned throughout his entire career because his starting point was Twilight, which, I mean, might have been a teen success, but overall is generally considered a pretty bad series of films. And him and Kristen Stewart have both kind of been uh, disregarded in a lot of major movies that they did really good in, because of their past work in Twilight. Here, Pattinson continues to prove himself as, I think, one of the best actors of our time. I think, every performance you see him in, he has a different voice.
Hmm.
He has a different physical mannerisms to his character. And here in Mickey 17, he's actually playing multiple versions of himself. At the same time, he'll be acting alongside himself within the same scene. Um, so I think there's a lot of really interesting things going on in this picture. There's also one scene in particular that both my friend and I laughed very loudly in the theater. There's a scene in which Pattinson, as Mickey, has to go eat dinner with uh, this failed politician who may or may not be Jeff Bezos, may or may not be Trump. It's kind of taking inspiration from a lot of different places from our current moment. But him and his wife, played by Toni Collette, one of the best actresses working now, um, erupt into song during a dinner that goes very off the rails very quickly. The entire scene is belly laughter material. It is really, really great. So that's my review of Mickey 17. Please check out my full thoughts in the paper this week. But I highly recommend it. That's definitely the critics' pick this week. Definitely go see it.
Is it in the general theaters?
It is in the general theaters. You should be able to see it everywhere. Interestingly enough, actually, it opened in Korea first. Even though it's an American production, it's
Wow.
produced by Warner Brothers. Bong Joon-ho is a South Korean filmmaker. So it opened in South Korea first. So they got the sneak peek before we did. But the film is, like I said, it's an American production. It's spoken in English. It just happened to open there first. I think because of the director's, citizenship there. So, but it's here now, and like I said, it's well worth your time. I think it's a great time.
Now that'll be in next week's paper.
This coming week's paper.
This coming week.
Yes.
This coming Saturday. This week we had my dead friend Zoe. Or
Yes.
Zoe. How is that pronounced? Just Zoe.
I think it's Zoe. I think Zoe would be with the Y, but I honestly don't know. But I was kind of mixed on my dead friends though. Here's the thing: is like I think we did briefly discuss it last week. The thing with my dead friend Zoe is the filmmaker has a lot of good intentions behind the picture. It's largely about soldiers coming home with post traumatic stress disorder, which I think is a very worthy topic. It's a noble topic. It's worthy of discussion. I think the problem is that there are certain choices that the director makes that kind of shift it from being a mainstream release to kind of feeling like an after-school special. Um, Not to say that the performances aren't good, particularly from Sonequa Martin Green, I believe is the actress. She does a great job. She has one scene in particular that's very emotional. Um, but I think there are certain choices in it, particularly towards the ending, where they actually have the cast and crew come up and advertise a barcode to donate to the cause. I do think that the cause is worthy of donation, and I think it's worthy of your time. But, to do that in a mainstream film does seem a little bit uh, certainly not mainstream, if not, made for TV feeling. Um, I also think that uh, while I think Sonequa Martin Green does a great job, Natalie Morales, who I'm usually a fan of, um, doesn't totally come off as emotionally believable. Her character is the one who's supposed to be experiencing these very uh, harsh levels of post traumatic stress disorder after her stint in Afghanistan. And I don't think the movie fully dives into her emotional state the way it could have. Most of the film, her character that you're seeing, Zoe, is a projection of Sonequa Martin Green's character. Because obviously, by the title, Zoe is dead. So I mean, we're only seeing a projection of that character. But in the flashbacks that we do see that actual character, it doesn't really feel like this character's trajectory makes sense.
Hmm.
To me, it's like if she is truly struggling with these things that ultimately lead her to take her own life, um, that doesn't come across very clearly to me. There's no moment in the film that screams hugely traumatic. There's no moment that really screams, uh, that her character Zoe is coming home with this and dealing with that and has the weight of that on her shoulders. It's just not fleshed out enough.
Right.
And I think they could have maybe done a better job with that. Like I said, I think the topic is noble and I think it's worthy of discussion. And I think certainly, our veterans deserve our support. Um, I think the movie could have just been done a little bit better.
It's an interesting observation, and being a product of the Vietnam era,
Mm,
I have a different viewpoint. I was I came of age. I had to get my draft number and enroll, and the year I turned 18, and my number was very low. I would have been drafted. They suspended the draft. So by the luck of God, I
Saved by
didn't
the
go,
bell.
but I would have gone. There was no doubt in my mind if that's what um, I didn't want to go, but I would have gone. My brother, on the other hand, when his number came up, he had 365, which out of 365, it's sort of like, oh man, somebody leads a very lucky life. My brother-in-law also was in the high two, so he didn't get pulled into it. But it's my friends who went and came back, PTSD wasn't a thing.
Mm,
They didn't address it, and it churned these people up.
yeah.
It ripped them up, and it was a difficult. And I don't like calling it a war. I call it a conflict because it was never fought as a war. It was our troops were sent over basically to contain. Um, they never fought for
Yeah.
victory, and that's no place to put your military. And I just there's so many levels on it that I disagree with. Um, but it's kind of like these people that are coming back now. I have known a number of people who served in Afghanistan. One of my former employees was in. She at the time was a captain in the army, and she was activated, and you have to look at these people because it's just inspiring. She was brilliant. She was an analyst for us, and she was absolutely brilliant. And she had a little daughter, and she was activated. She was going to go to Iraq. And I said, ooh, you have a little kid, who's like 2 or 3 years old, and she goes, no, this is what I'm trained for. This is what I am part of. And so my parents will watch her while I'm overseas when I'm active duty. While she was there, she got promoted to major.
Mm.
When she came back, she was promoted to colonel. She was a teacher at the U.S. Army War College
Wow.
and was promoted to general before she retired. And it's just you just look at these people in awe because her insightful thinking, her analytics were second to none, and her dedication to this country was beyond belief. So any of these people, and I totally agree with you, Sam. I don't think we do enough for these people who literally put their lives and their families' lives
Yep.
on hold to basically serve the country. And I just think that it's, well, I agree with you. It's kind of tacky to have that at the end of the, and this is, again, my own, selfish feeling is that, the question that I would have is how much of the uh, profits from the movie are you donating to the cause?
Which is kind of what I was thinking too. Is if you did really want to contribute to the cause, why not shift some of the profits of the film to that instead of having this message at the end advertising a barcode? Tacky was kind of a good word for that. I also, not to shift subjects, but the other review in the paper this week was Last Breath. Um, if you don't see Mickey 17, see Last Breath. It's a really interesting topic. It is based on a true story. And I did talk about it a little bit on the last podcast, but I do kind of want to I want to talk about it again because I really haven't stopped thinking about the movie. So there are 20,000 miles of piping underneath the ocean, and it transports all of our fuel. And people have to go down to the bottom of the ocean and maintain those pipes. And that's a real job. And that job is called saturation diving. And this movie Last Breath is the true story about one of those saturation dives going horribly wrong, and their like actual true story of survival. Um, it's a lot of times February kind of gets this January and February are often dump months, of movies Hollywood doesn't know what to do with, so they just dump it in February. And Last Breath definitely feels like that was a movie Hollywood didn't know what to do with and just dumped it in February. A movie that takes place entirely in water that they put in the middle of winter. Make it make sense. But uh, it's a really exciting picture. It is really well done. And the true story behind it is just gripping. It is so, so informative and interesting and sweat inducing. It is a very tense picture, and you'll be walking out sitting there kind of just amazed that it's a true story. It's so crazy to think that this actually happened, and these guys live to tell the tale. Like I said, if you don't see Mickey 17 this week, definitely check that out. It's in the second week at the box office. It's doing okay. I think it could do a lot better, though.
Interesting. I like in the review, and I'm not going to spoil it. People should read the review in the paper this week. When you talk about Matthew McConaughey,
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson, I get those two confused
That's an easy.
all the time.
That's an easy
How
to
embarrassing.
confuse. But yeah, no, I mean, Harrelson's interesting in that movie because he's kind of playing this guy that's very laid back and has a lot of experience, and realistically, like that's not too far off from who Woody Harrelson is. But he does do that character really well. I mean, he does put a lot of conviction into that type of character. And, there's a scene in particular towards the end of Last Breath where he gives a very emotional reaction to something going on. And he's very believable. I mean, he's really good in the part. I mean, I've always been a fan of Harrelson in general, but I mean, uh, there is times when I watch him and I'm like, okay, this is you. This is just you. Um, Here, I mean, it did kind of have that sense of this is a little bit him, but you could tell that he really liked the story, and you could tell that he was really invested in these characters and telling this the right way. And he does a great job. I think him, also his co-star Simu Liu. Again, if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, I do apologize. But Simu Liu does an incredible job in this movie. He's really the only character that is written with a full arc,
Mm.
and he's awesome. He does a really good, very physical performance. They are shooting actually underwater, and anybody who's worked in film knows how annoying and difficult that is. I think they put a lot of work into this movie, and I think it's also definitely worth your time.
And now you know why Sam does the movie reviews and not me.
Come on, Jim. You're going to be directing soon, right?
No.
I mean, that's all I had for today.
Excellent.
Did we want to talk about anything else?
I think we pretty much covered it all. I'm
Cool.
just looking through today's paper to look at it. If you pick up this week's paper, make sure you look at the calendar. A lot of interesting things are going on. Peter Slogat does compile that every week, and it's a pretty good view. I know people have uh, complained that if they get it late, if they get the paper late, um, that they don't get a chance to see it because it already occurred. We do it in advance, so you should be able to plan a week in advance. I do apologize. The in certain zip codes they tend to get it late. It's because we use the U.S. Postal Service. They do an excellent job. There's no shade there at all. They are really a good group of people. It's just that at certain points of the year they will get inundated. Not so much this year, but last year, Amazon overwhelmed them, and we were pushed back. So it wasn't a good thing for us, but we're back on a regular schedule, and hopefully people start to get it on time for the weekend. But if not, please read ahead because most of the things that are happening in the calendar happen, more than just this weekend.
Absolutely. So be sure to pick up your copy of the paper or subscribe to us. Like I said in the beginning, subscribe to the Long Islander starting at just $45 a year. We deliver right to your door, and we cover everything from local businesses, politics, sports, special interest stories, and entertainment, including weekly movie reviews. Please, like I said, follow the Long Islander newspaper on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at Long Islander News. Today I had Jim Kelly with me and Gina Florentino-James. My name is Samuel Ashkenazy. Today is March 7th, 2025. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week.